it's really difficult to pick out the best memory because there's so many memories and many of them are really good. It's one of the best times ever, I think, in my life. The main reason why I asked to be a part of the Snøhetta team was to work on this amazing project. But of course, and I brought my family, my ex-wife and my 2 kids, lived in a different place than the others in the team. So for me, it was also a family experience with very many good memories. My children learned to walk and talk in Cairo. So it's difficult. But from the project, I have several times thought about a study trip we made to Hurghada and to Aswan with the stone cladding team, where Jorunn Sandnes was in charge and the artist for the whole project. But we were supposed to go to the south of Egypt and Middle Egypt to see quarries and pick out stones for the stone wall. And we went there, a big team. In the middle of the summer, it was, I think, May or June, if I remember it correctly. Driving in Toyota Land Cruises, and it was extremely hot in the desert south of Aswan. First, we needed to have a permit to go there in the military area. We had to bribe the police chief. That's not supposed to be said, of course. We didn't do that. The bribing was told to us by many before we went to Egypt that was sort of the everyday life. But we never actually experienced bribing like that. But the police chief, he wanted his sort of part of our expedition to the south of Egypt. So I think it was like $500 or something. We went and went to see, I think it was Dave Smith from Schumann Smith, it was Jorunn Sandnes, it was Christian Blystad, the artist that followed us, and it was Arne Johansen from Johansen Granit in Skjeberg, and Egyptians. And after some beautiful days in Aswan, we went to the desert in these land cruises, and the temperatures were above 50 degrees Celsius. And it was just so amazing to see people work in stone quarries in such conditions. I tried to pick up some tools, and it was too hot to hold. And the guys sat there day after day, and through the Egyptians we asked, how long are you here? Why are you here? And they were there 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And he said, I'm here for the salary. It's really well paid. I'm sure it was not well paid, but for him it was well paid. And that's just struck me that, you know, the Library of Alexandria, he would probably never be there or see it, but he was part of this really strong and important part of this really strong project that the world admire. And this guy in the desert, really impressive. And I, on this trip, we were just in and out of the cars, which had the air condition, of course, so we were not really bothered by the high temperatures. And when the Egyptian project manager proposed that we should eat lunch in the desert, is it possible? Yeah. So we came to this cabin. They took off one of the walls, opened a little window on the other end, and it was shadow inside and sun outside. And suddenly we had a breeze through the box, and we had a lovely lunch in the desert, all of us. One of my best memories, I think. We also went on this same trip to Hurghada to see some Roman quarries up in the mountains. And none of the Egyptians wanted to go first on the track up to the top of the mountains because there are desert snakes. And they are under the sand, and they suddenly strikes you without you knowing it, because you can't see them. And no one wanted to walk after that story, of course, so I decided just to take a walk, go first. We didn't see any snakes, but we came to this amazing quarry on top of this place where they had made columns for buildings in Rome. The Romans made columns on top of that mountain for buildings in Rome. So they took it down from the mountains through Egypt, over the Mediterranean Sea to Rome. And that also amazed me completely, that, you know, people did this thousands of years ago. So the many experience like that, which I think was one of my best experiences. And with my family also, we had a driver who loved our kids and were with us every day, took my wife to here and there. So there's so many memories on many levels. But I think still the trip with Jorunn and Dave, Christian and Arne is one of my best memories from this adventure. How I got involved?
Yeah.
Well, it's a long story. I should try to make it short. I worked at another office, Plato Arkitekter. I don't think it exists anymore. It was Norway's biggest, largest architectural office many, many years ago. And we needed I was project manager for a hotel in Nepal. And we needed landscape architects. And someone proposed, why don't we ask Snøhetta? They had just started. So we met 3 landscape architects from Snøhetta, Johan Østengen, Reiner Stange, and Kjetil Thorsen. We thought he was a landscape architect too, but he was not. He was an architect. And it was really fun working with them because they were so different from Plato architects. And they really wanted to do something with the architecture, the landscape architecture, with the project, so they changed everything all the time. And after long working days, I went on the roof with Kjetil and had some wine and some whiskey and long nights. And he told me, Ole, I will call you when we sign the contract in Alexandria. You have to work with us. So I said, oh, why not? Call me. When will that happen? Very soon, very soon. 4 years later, he called me and said, we have signed the contract. You have to come and have an interview with Craig in the office. So that's the way I came to the project. Was very happy then. I came together with a few others at that time. Again, many people were really, really nice and excellent architects and landscape architects and artists. So I haven't thought that one of them, but I different periods of I worked on the project for 13 years. 13 years is a long time because I continued also to work with the interiors and the furniture project. But especially when the tender drawings were supposed to be delivered, it was an amazing task. And we had Craig Dykers with his red pen, correcting every drawing and hundreds of drawings. He was there on his big table with his red pen. A really amazing and honestly a very boring job, but he did an amazing job correcting drawings in the latest phase of but there's so many stories like that. But I think on the team, Craig was really, really amazing. The Egypt experience and the Alexandria library experience changed my life. Of course it did, because we were there in a very important time of my life also, because I just had kids. But I think culturally it was, we came there in late July, August, and all the time until Christmas, we didn't really dare to go out because we thought it was dangerous. When we came there, the terrorists just started to shoot tourists. So we obviously thought we were a target. So we were not really afraid because we felt really good taken care of. But we didn't really want to explore and go on adventures in this environment. Very unknown for us. But after that, I could also say, because we lived in a different area than the rest of the team, so we had a very good neighbor. Ole Gustavsen was my neighbor, and we rented the apartment from his brother, and I got to know them really well. So he invited us into different dinners and parties with his friends. So I think we were maybe one of the team members that had most friends and were most together with other Egyptians. And it struck us that when you meet Egyptians officially, they are very formal. The women are sometimes covered or not seen. When they are private and in private parties, they are just like us, because they are with friends and with family, and they don't show off for the public. And I still have Ole Gustavsen as my friend. I communicate with him, and I think from being afraid, Cairo is a pretty scary city. The traffic, everything there. And really have one of my best friends in this environment was a good experience. I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do, and what to be careful about and not. So I think it changed me as a person to be there, to live there that year, but also the next 12 years I was there, meeting everyone from Madame Mubarak, a lot of politicians and decision makers and ordinary people. Just amazing. Maybe I should start saying I don't really care what people think. That's their problem. It doesn't mean that I'm not aware of or listen to other people, but I think, especially in architecture, with the Munch Museum, with the National Museum, with the Opera House. The Opera House was the ugliest building in Oslo when it was built. People thought it looked like a parking house. It was just a mistake, the whole thing. When it's finished, it's a landmark for Norway. And all the people criticizing it is gone. And I think with the library, we always thought it was maybe a problem because the political situation in Egypt was not the best, having a military dictator, how all conditions in Egypt, spending that much money on such a project. But the library is a meeting place. And if you go there today, I think it's a comfort on some of these arguments. I think that it's used by so many young people, and they find protection there, they find friendship there, they find love there. It's really what we wanted it to be, an important meeting place. Obviously, because Alexandria University is, across the road, with I think 60,000 students, 60,000 students. But I always thought it was an amazing project. I was there with Queen Sonja and some ambassadors, and we went out to the glass pavilion in the middle of the reading room, and suddenly we heard, sorry, I, I don't know why this is happening. And one of the ambassadors was crying, and he was really embarrassed by this, that he was crying. And he said, I have never experienced this before. It's the first time I see such a space, and I get so touched that I'm crying. And after this visit, she was not on my tour with the Queen, but Inger Sitter, the artist, she's passed away now. She wrote me a note on a hotel, you know, a sketchbook from a hotel, that she was there, and it was the only time in many years she had cried, cried because of this project, because it was so beautiful. And of course this is very nice to hear. Of course the project has been criticized by many, not being what was meant to be, you know, that the collection doesn't have the right books there. But I think it's a really, really excellent project. Thinking about it, the competition was won in '89. It's many years ago. It was before the climate discussions and other things. So no, I'm really proud on behalf of Snøhetta and the team and myself. I've been a part of the project. Very exciting, actually, and we met so many people because of this project also. Gro Harlem Brundtland, which was a supporter and a protector of the project. We had breakfast with her in Cairo. Many, many experiences like that. Amazing. There's one more story. I think it's unique and special, and it's about Christian Brystad, the sculptor and the artist. On this trip, we had to see quarries in the middle and south of Egypt. We were just starting. We had parked the cars, and we were supposed to climb the mountains, and we were talking about snakes and all that. And suddenly there came a man on a camel, and he just came to us and said, "Camel ride? Camel ride?" And the Egyptian said, "No, there's no time for camel ride. We don't want the camel ride." And then Christian Brystad said, "How many people are here? You know, this guy offering us a camel ride in the middle of nowhere. How many customers, come here? Of course we should have a camel ride. It takes 5 minutes. We will have a camel ride. I'm first." So he took a camel ride, 10 pounds to the guy. He was so happy. And I said, if Christian is having a camel ride, I will have it too. So I had one, and no one else. That's it. So the Egyptians thought that, well, we finished. We can walk now. And then the guy said, he had a tent if we were hungry. And the Egyptian said, "No, we are not hungry. We are not hungry." Christian said, "Yes, I'm hungry." So we went to this, it was just around the corner. They had a tent, a woman and children. The fireplace was on. And they made this bee stew and freshly baked bread. So Christian and I, we sat down. I think Jorunn also sat down. Don't remember exactly. And it was so many flies. It was so hot. It was pretty awful, but at the same time, extremely nice. And this guy was so happy. He was not eating. He was just looking at us. And we were trying to get the flies before we had. And this was all because of Christian Brystad, being a very, very kind man. And he made sort of 5 times Christmas Eve for this family because we paid for the food also. And like he said, who's the customer out here and why are they here? Egypt is full of things like this. I always thought that when we remember this process and remember the project, I think we should mention everyone. I think there's so easy to forget very important people with big roles or small roles in a project like this. So when one make history like this, I think it's important that when you work on the history that everyone is remembered and everyone is mentioned, because so many people did a really great job. And I feel bad mentioning Craig because he was not the only one. That it was on the top of my mind when you asked me about that. But I think it's really important that we struggle to remember everyone in this journey of making an archive for the Biblioteca Alexandrina.